Good evening, friends, and you are watching Weekend at 5 with me, Navdeep Kaur. A look at the top headlines of the day today. There have been 2,365 new community cases of COVID 19 in New Zealand today. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Health reported two deaths today. Also, there have been 12 cases that have been reported at the border. Moving on to some more COVID 19 news, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said today that the Omicron outbreak is likely to peak in 3 to 6 weeks. And at that point, she will say whether the country will move down the traffic light system or ease the gathering limits. Now, a good news for some business owners. New financial support for COVID 19 has been announced, which includes targeted payments to business struggling in the red lights segment, an interest free extension to small businesses' loans, and flexibility on tax payment dates. Moving on, the Queen Elizabeth II has tested positive for COVID 19. The 95-year-old monarch is experiencing mild cold like symptoms but expects to continue his functioning at Windsor over the coming weeks, the palace has said. Now, moving on to our interview section now. March 1 is round the corner, and most of the migrants who are eligible for the one off resident phase 2 are looking forward to that date. The D date is looming, and people have been eagerly waiting and preparing themselves for the application process. We have Himang Bhardwaj from Council on Immigration Services NZ to talk about the process and how you can make it easier for you. Welcome to the show, Himang.
Hi Navdeep, thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, just preparing the applications for 1st of March since it's around the corner. So it's
Right.
quite a crunch time for the entire industry for us at this point of time.
Right. So tell me, what kind of preparation are you people doing as an immigration expert?
I guess for us, the main thing is that the clients that we that are with us right now, we're just making sure that all the documentation that's required is prepared, preempting what the application form would potentially ask, based on what we saw in the phase one application forms, and of course from today. Some people will be able to lodge their applications early if they had an expression of interest in the skilled migrant category in process on or before 29th of September 2021.
Right.
So it's just, that's basically what we've been doing right now. It's just looking at documents, making sure we've got all the information that we need, and gearing up for 1st of March, 6 a.m. in the morning, probably a
Right.
little earlier.
Right. Tell me one thing, you talked about that today lot 1,500 applicant per day will be given
More or
invitation
less, yes.
apply.
Yeah.
Yes. So have your clients been given any
Yeah,
invitation today?
so the automated emails that clients have received, based on the email address that was provided for that expression of interest. So I've
Mhm.
got a few clients that will be submitting the applications for before the 1st of March itself as well. I think again, Immigration New Zealand is just trying their best to make sure they avoid the technical issues that immigration had on 1st of December. They don't want to do the same thing again on 1st of March itself. But I still do think that regardless of, I don't think these 10,000 odd applications would really make a big difference in terms of the people looking at lodging their applications on 1st of March itself.
Right. So tell me, when a client comes to you, what kind of question are they asking who want to apply on March 1st? So what are the things that they're worried about? What are the things that are in top of their head which they want to sort out?
I think one of the biggest thing that, of course, I think everyone's asking right now is how long will it take for the
Mhm.
application to be processed. Of course, in December as well, we saw that some of the applications came back within a matter of days. I think immigration approved around 8 or 9, 6 or 8 applications on 1st of December itself, while some other applications have taken a little longer. So from a process standpoint, that's one of the biggest questions that we get is, how long will it take for the application to be processed?
Mhm.
Apart from that, there are usually eligibility related questions, is my birth certificate right or not? Will my employment be acceptable? And just things like that, depending on what criteria do they actually qualify under.
Right. So tell me, as an expert, what are your tips for somebody to when they're arranging for the documents? What are the things that you should keep in mind?
I guess it boils down to if the person is using an advisor, just make sure you're providing them all the documents in advance so that they have ample time to work on the application as well. If you're doing the application yourself, then just make sure you follow the checklist that Immigration New Zealand has provided on their website, and you have all the documents prepared. The online form only accepts PDF format documents, so just make sure that all your documents are in the PDF format, apart from the picture, and just make sure that you don't try to rush through the application just to get a quicker spot in the queue, but rather focus on making sure that the information that's provided on the form is correct and up to date.
Right. And also, one question that a lot of people have is about the medicals. A lot of people are confused whether they should get their medicals done before or they should wait for the. There was some announcement that medicals will be asked by the immigration. So, what is right now the
So
status?
the what has happened is immigration is apparently based on what INZ has told us advisors and what they have on their immigration website as well, is that they are looking at using a new platform for processing the one-off resident visa applications that was originally created for the accredited employer work visa and the accreditation scheme, which kicks in July this year, and that's the platform that's being used now. With that platform, it has the ability to allow you to submit the application without medicals, and then you can be asked for medicals after the application is submitted. If you look globally, with Australian immigration and Canadian immigration, usually you apply for the visas first, then those immigration departments create a health case for you, and then you approach the relevant doctor or radiologist to get the medicals done. With the one-off resident visa, as you can, as I'm sure you guys are aware, there were a lot of queues on that Queen Street Medical Center, and then a lot of other places as well. Even my clients struggled getting appointments for their medicals and stuff. So I guess keeping that in mind, they've decided to, and with the new system coming in, so if you've got the medicals done before 1st of March, great. You can submit the application with those medicals. But if for whatever reason you're unable to get the medicals done, then just make sure that you submit the application, and then Immigration New Zealand will ask you to get the medicals done later on.
Right. But wouldn't that delay the process if somebody actually is
Not
asked by the
necessarily.
immigration?
Not
Okay.
necessarily. It's a matter of so let's say if someone requests an immigration officer requests you to get the medicals done, takes a couple of days to get the medicals done. From an administrative standpoint, most of the process with medicals is automated, so there's not a lot of delay from that perspective.
Right. And now coming about delays, what has been your experience of the phase one processing right now? What has your experience of seeing that is
So
immigration
it's
meeting the
it's a
target?
mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. And see, look, I worked with the department for 7 odd years, and the one thing is, in terms of consistent timeframes for visa application, is something that immigration struggles with on a regular basis, and they've struggled with it, even way before one of residency even was a thing. So while this phased implementation of opening of the resident visa application has, to an extent, helped INZ manage the workload more or less. The phase one applications are still, as I said before as well, some have come through in a day, while the others are still being processed by immigration at this point of time as well. So it's really hard for us to say how long will an application take to be processed. I mean, again, if there are any character health concerns, or there's just general concerns around your eligibility for residence, then it's expected that the application will take a little longer to be processed. But a lot of decision ready applications as well, but there are no concerns, can sometimes take long depending where in the queue the application ends up.
Right. And talking about one of residents and the process, tell me one thing. We saw in December 1st that there was technical issues and how the website crashed. So, do you think it is a right way move for immigration to try a new platform for phase two, where we know people will be 90,000, more than 90,000 application will
Exactly.
be are expected. So, do you think this should not have been the right platform? What is your take on that?
See, I did have a chance. So I left immigration in July last year, and at that point of time, the platform that they'll be using is called Microsoft Dynamics 365, and they've created that new platform, and a big part of that process has automated decision making in it, where the algorithm actually makes the decision instead of a manual assessment required by an immigration officer. Um, I have exactly the same concern as you, is that system has not been tested yet with any major volumes of visa applications in a live environment. And unfortunately, this one of residence will be the first time that that system actually gets tested. So it'll be very hard for us to say how that goes through. If everything works out, and I'm sure Immigration New Zealand tech team will be working day in day out right now to make sure that the system is prepared for 1st of March. But if it works out, then I think we can expect a lot quicker outcomes on the applications, especially for people under the settled criteria. Just
Mhm.
because a big chunk of that application will be then done through the automated decision making element of the system.
Right. And now we have a reader who has asked a question, Himang. He
Yeah.
said, is the phase one form the same for the phase two applications on March 1st?
More or less, the application form, the information that they will ask on the application form will pretty much be the same. One of the big difference was that with phase one, you didn't have to pay the fee at the time of submitting the application, whereas with phase two, that's going to be one of the changes. That the phase two will then require them to pay the application fee at the time of the application is being submitted.
Okay, so now they don't need to do that.
They do need to do it now. So in phase one, because most of the applicants already had paid
Okay.
for skilled migrant category and residence from work application fees, what immigration
Mhm.
did was they allowed people to submit the application, and then at the approval in principle stage, they had to pay the difference or get the
Right,
refund or whatever it was. But with second phase onwards, they have to pay the application fee at the time of lodgement.
right.
So when we fill out the form.
Right. Right, Himang. While this phase one is very happy news for a lot of migrants who are in New Zealand, we know a lot of people who are stuck overseas and who have partners stuck overseas. So another reader has asked a question about the July. There is a news. Immigration has confirmed that in July partners would be able to join in. So in July, should living requirement still be in place, like 3 months living requirement? Is that still be there? That is the question. One
Kulvinder,
of our
that's
readers.
I saw the question as well. So Kulvinder, in regards to how INZ will look at processing those applications for people qualifying for visas in July, is still yet to be seen. At this stage, it's just more of an announcement from a higher government level.
Mhm.
Immigration New Zealand will still be ironing out the details of how the process will work out, which processing office will take care of those applications, and things like that, and what the requirements and criteria would look like. So we'll
Mhm.
probably get a bit more information closer to that time. I guess just like us advisors as well, Immigration New Zealand is very focused on this one of resident visa at this point of time as well. So we'll probably the information on that might just come through probably I'd say around April.
Okay. And also, talking about overseas stuck, what is your take on students who who were workers who visa got expired while they were stuck in India or overseas, and now they're asking in petition saying that, they should get a chance and their visas should be, extended, like Australia has done it. So what is your take on that? Do you think this government needs to be little show humanitarian concerns for those?
I mean, see, in my mind, I can build a case for both things. There's from an humanitarian perspective, or just from the sheer perspective that it was a global pandemic. It
Mhm.
wasn't the migrants' fault that the borders were closed off when they were outside New Zealand and they couldn't travel back, and now their visas have expired. At the same time, you can't fault Immigration New Zealand for that either. It wasn't INZ's fault that COVID happened as well. So it'll be quite tricky for them to do either both, or either or of the things. Opening up, extending visas or allowing extensions for people whose visas had expired would probably be a good move that will make our migrant community quite happy. But immigration needs to consider a lot of other factors.
Mhm.
Like if we do, let's say, they renew the visas and stuff, what the impact of that would be on the housing market, the infrastructure, the job sector in general, and all
Mhm.
those things as well. I mean, at this point of time, I really don't want to say what the government plans on doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they decide not to extend the visas.
Okay, right. I think because right now, as you said, that the focus of everybody is on the one-off, and they're so happy with the fact that people here are getting it, that they're not focusing on the offshore people
Yeah.
right now. So Himang, tell me, if I ask you that, what is your advice to people who are right now waiting for 1st March and getting, finding an advisor or looking for people to help them? What are the things that they should look for?
I guess just the first thing is look for someone who's, I guess, if you're looking for an advisor, look for someone who's competent and understands what the requirements are. I mean, again, from a client perspective, it can be quite hard for them to gauge and judge which advisor to go for, and stuff like that. So it's really the applicant's call in terms of what sort of advisor would suit their application. The only advice I'd say is don't hide anything from your advisor. Make
Mhm.
sure that you're telling them exactly what the situation is, even if there's something that needs to be worked on from an immigration standpoint, just so that they can give you correct advice. Also, if you are expecting, I mean, that's probably the case with me, and I'm pretty sure that's the case with a lot of other advisors as well at this point of time, is that if you're looking at hiring an advisor at this point of time, don't expect the application to be done on 1st of March, because all of
Right.
us already have a massive workload
Right.
already that we have to look out for. So if you do decide to sign up with us, or any good advisors, or for most of them, at this point of time, have plenty of workload. So expect that the application lodgement would probably be a little after 1st of March.
You tell me one thing, it's not first come, first serve basis, right? People have this tendency to think that it is first come, serve basis, and first March means first March. I don't want to delay my application. And I think that is a pressure that translates to the advisors as well. So
Yeah.
do you have people telling you that first March is when I want it, no matter
Yeah,
what?
I mean, everyone's being like, "Oh, I don't mind paying you extra if you just do my application first," and that's just not, of course, how things work out, and things like that.
Right.
From a processing perspective, we had the same discussion with, I think as well, and the last time I was with you guys on Indian Weekender. It's the main thing really is you have to understand that there are the main load of applications is going to three different visa application center, or processing offices. Each office has different teams working in it, and then each team has different officers working in it. So there's, as you can see, there's a queue, and then there are a lot of different sub queues. Now, depending where your application ends up in that entire process, it can take quite different time frames. So, as for example, on 1st of December, we did a few applications. Some of them came back the second day. We did a few applications on 7th and 12th of December that got processed as well, but there are still some from 1st and 2nd of December that are still pending.
Mm,
Those are decision ready applications. Immigration officer doesn't even need to do anything with those applications, but that's just still the time that it is just what it is, unfortunately. So I mean, long story short, just because you've submitted the application on 1st of March doesn't necessarily guarantee that you'll be the first one whose application will get processed or completed.
right. You used the word decision ready. What do you, a lot of people have been using it from the context of immigration. What do you mean by a decision ready application from an applicant point of view?
See, the word decision ready is actually not from an app. It's more from an immigration officer's point of view that we use that. So, what it basically means is that an application, when it's submitted to Immigration New Zealand, has everything an immigration officer would probably need to make an assessment on the visa application. That's what a decision ready application is. For suppose birth certificates are required with the resident
Mm,
visa application. So,
mhm.
if you don't include a birth certificate with the application, that means your application is not necessarily decision ready, because the
Right,
immigration officer will have to contact you and ask you about that information.
right. Okay. And tell me one more question that people have in mind. Do they need to get their documents attested for this one of
No. So it's the all the entire application process is online. So
mhm,
consider this: even if you're uploading, even if you get the document attested, you're not sending the original attested document to immigration.
mhm.
You're still scanning the attested copy. So a scan of an original or an attested copy makes no difference to immigration.
Right,
And again, if they have any questions or any concerns around the authenticity of the documents, they will ask for the originals to be submitted.
right. Because earlier it used to be for the paper-based application that you needed
Mm.
attested copies. So
Yeah.
I think
So
that
if
is why people still have that in mind, and they.
yes, no, I mean,
Right.
even now, if you do a paper-based resident visa application, for suppose, let's say residence from work is one of the applications that's still paper-based. If you submit that application, the document should either be original or certified. But
Right.
whereas because it's an online application, that doesn't kind of come into play.
Right. There's another question on the screen, Himang. It's saying that one last question in the form they ask about the family details. Do we need to upload copies of their passport or just put their date of birth?
No, it's just the information they need, Mandeep. They don't necessarily want identity documents for your families or anything. And it's just your immediate family, siblings, parents, children, and partners only.
Right. And another question is that I'm from Deepa. It says I'm on a PhD student visa. My husband's spouse visa has expired now as I have taken extension for my studies. When can he reapply and come over? Please do tell. It seems that he is offshore.
I guess Deepa will need a bit more information and to answer your question. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me. I'm sure my contact details would be somewhere there, and I can probably help you out with that as well. But it's hard for me to say anything just based on that comment itself.
Right. I think Himang, you must be very busy with all the applications, and people are also a lot of questions which you have answered, and I'm hopeful that people will know things they needed to know. Thank you so much for your time, and hope the phase two goes well and not we don't see any hiccups as we saw in December 1.
Yes, hopefully, and best of luck to all the applicants as well doing their applications. And hopefully, you all get your resident visas quickly enough.
Yes. Thank you so much, Himang.
Sure, no worries. Cheers.
So that was Himang Bhardwaj, immigration expert, telling us what is needed to make your application ready, foolproof, and decision ready for the phase two of one of residency. And please do keep watching indianweekender.co.nz to see all the latest news.